Hi guys, I'm back with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer review. It's been a while. This one's Season 1, Episode 2, The Harvest. Just let me take a toke on my cigarette and I'll be right with you. First off, let me say that The Harvest is a legendary episode of television. As an avid fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer since its inception, I and you can always come back to this episode and enjoy it. As a matter of fact, the same can be said to this day for most of Season 1 for that matter. I personally definitely prefer the high school years when Angel was still around, when compared to Seasons 4 through 7, when we didn't have Angel. Although it has to be said there are still some bright spots to be found during that era, although they are more sporadic, more centered around Spike, who brings a lot during that time. The bright spots during that time are really, in the later seasons, fewer and further between in the high school years, which had a really strong and consistent current of vitality that saw it through to some really fascinating and engaging story arcs that the later seasons appeared to be lacking even up until this day. As for Season 1, there's a brightness and a vigour in the characters' performances that really shines through as the actors were all in their prime of their youth. And bad haircuts aside, Season 1 just comes off as really fresh and a lot more fun in general when compared to the later seasons, which seem to be a lot more serious and stuff like that. Even on rewatch, compared to the later seasons, the dialogue in Season 1 has an intensity that is missing a lot later on, where things just get kind of too nice and almost nauseating, and the dialogue gets a lot more baby-like, like with Willow and Tara and Dawn. It's just awful. So the first 3 seasons really I'm a fan of, and they really embody what I like about the show, and honestly, Angel and Buffy's romance is a big part of that. So as for this episode, The Harvest is of course a direct continuation right off from the end of Welcome to the Hellmouth, and makes for an excellent conclusion to the two-parter which kicked off the entire franchise. It's kind of interesting that Buffy as a show started with a two-parter, and just as a sidetrack, I just wish they had the opportunity to make a season with 22 episodes instead of just the 12, which they were allowed to do given the timing of the show's introduction to the network and stuff. So really The Harvest is all about taking this big badass vampire Luke down, and in fact to that end Buffy succeeds in doing that at the end of this episode, so it's all right in the world at the end. The teaser in the show of The Harvest is frenetic, as Buffy only just escapes Luke's clutches with the help of the Christian cross that Angel had so kindly and mysteriously given to her. This almost Christian underplay is present in most of Season 1, and all of the high school years for that matter, as Buffy is often to be found wearing a Christian cross of some sort during this time around her neck. It's very powerful symbology given that she is the Slayer and that she's out to hurt vampires. The love between Angel and Buffy is the strongest glue of the show during the high school years, and it's weird because it's almost got like this Christian nobility about it and innocence, what with Angel being so kind and good and having Buffy and Angel both being out to save helpless people around the world in Sunnydale who perhaps aren't Christians. They're actually getting saved as a metaphor by Buffy and to a lesser extent Angel and the gang. They're getting saved not in a Christian way, but physically from the monsters. So, it's just crazy that Buffy wears a cross and all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? It's very Christian in its metaphor. The story of Jesus in the Bible, particularly the New Testament, is a great foundation for expert movies, such as The Matrix, with Neo being an almost Christian-like saviour as the one. And over the course of history, Hollywood has often used the story of Jesus and the Christian plight to tell some of its very best stories. On rewatch, of course, we already know that Angel is a vampire, so there is a tone of tragedy which is already in motion in this episode because, of course, Christian crosses actually hurt vampires. So for Angel to have given Buffy a necklace adorned with a cross It's interesting imagery and almost hints at a doomed potential relationship with Buffy before it's even gotten started at this point, given that he's a vampire and she's not. After the teaser, the episode starts with a bit of exposition as to the origin of vampires and all the bad things in the Buffyverse, which Giles gives us, and he will often take up this role in the first 3 seasons to supply us with backstory and fill in the gaps as to what is going on with the bad guys. Giles' performance is just amazing, as he possesses a certain intensity and intelligence which is really, really cool and enjoyable to witness. His presence and involvement with the gang and the show add so much to it on rewatch as well, and is a big reason why the show is so interesting to watch more than just the first time, more than once. It's during this episode that Xander and Willow's role as not just friends, but friends that will end up helping Buffy fight the bad guys through thick and thin, no matter what is outlined. And although Buffy is a little reticent to involve them within her dangerous deeds at first, it was important for the show at this point to obviously demonstrate that Willow and Xander know everything about Buffy's role as a Slayer, and Giles as well. And they obviously want in on the fight against evil. So this gives us, as the viewer, it gives us like a kind of we're all in this fight together kind of vibe, you know. From this point on, therefore, we can be sure that during any episode, no matter what we're facing, Buffy is no longer alone on her quest, as she may have thought, to defeat evil, and so long as they stay friends, she'll always have Xander, Willow and Giles by her side giving their best. This core of the original Scooby Gang really makes the stories and energy in Season 1 really strong. If you take the later seasons as an example, for example Season 7, the gang by that time gets really watered down a lot, and it's the essential energy and fun friendship that the guys had in Season 1 that made it so great in my opinion, and still makes it great, especially when a lot of that gets watered down a lot in the later years, where they're not really that friendly with each other and they just sort of pretend to be nice, and it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Aside from the episode itself entitled Angel as a character really only makes brief cameos during Season 1, but his appearances still offer us with some of the brightest spots of the show overall on rewatch, so that's kind of ironic. David Boreanaz is still really young and good looking at this point, and so it's easy to understand why Buffy would be so attracted to him. Their romance really picks up in Season 2, however, and of course Angel becomes such a vital and compelling character that he even gets his own show after the end of Season 3, which in itself is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing in that Angel the show is actually really, really good, and it's a classic, and I'll be reviewing episodes from that show, but it's also a curse in that Buffy as a show was left with a gaping hole for its remaining years when Angel was badly missed, and the show just never really recovered after his loss. It's cool that even at this early stage of the harvest, the franchise is using the Bronze as a backdrop for a lot of the activity that takes place, with lively bands playing like Sprung Monkey, and a lot of the music actually contributes some great atmosphere to the show, even as early as this point, which is it gets it off to a great start and really sets the vibe for Season 1. As an episode, The Harvest is really accomplished and is a great conclusion to the first ever episode entitled Welcome to the Hellmouth. A lot of the youthful energy is still there present in the show. The characters are all still getting to know each other, and I would say that The Harvest sets the stall out for what we can expect from Buffy as a show for the rest of the season, if not for the rest of the franchise, if they hadn't veered too far away from that. The next episode, entitled The Witch, is a bit of a letdown, so I'm not sure if I'll review that, but be sure to be on the lookout for more Buffy and Angel reviews when I get around to recording and uploading them. So yeah, that's all for now, kids. I'll say hasta la vista, take it easy, and keep the Buffy love alive, alright guys? Alright, see you later. I'll give you one more puff on the cigarette and that's it. Alright, peace out guys. Later, always.